This is episode 1 of the Repetition Paradox, which is a series of video articles looking at deliberate practice for fiction writers, and this is the introduction to the series. What we're going to cover in this series. Now, deliberate practice was first codified in 1994 by a guy called Anders Ericsson. Now, he worked with 3 colleagues and they released a paper which you can find online. I'll cross-reference it in a future episode. And they'd studied a bunch of violinists at the West Berlin Academy, and they came out with a paper, and this was the first codification of the concept that we now know as deliberate practice. Don't know what Anders' colleagues went on to do, but Anders continued for the rest of his life. He sadly passed away in, I think, 2019, relatively recently. But he carried on working in the field of talent acquisition, did a lot of stuff on deliberate practice, codified a lot of the elements that you'll find in deliberate practice. Very interesting guy, and he wrote a book called Peak, which I've talked about before, which is a great book. Basically, deliberate practice is the science of skill acquisition. It's applicable to any discipline, from art to music, to learning a language, to playing chess, to learning a musical instrument, to sports. Anything you can think of, you can get better at it using the principles of deliberate practice, and it's especially applicable to fiction writing, even though there are very few people talking about deliberate practice in fiction writing. Very few people actually applying it correctly, in my view. My viewpoint is that the advice out there for fiction writers on how they can get better, i.e. improvement advice, is woeful. I released a video article yesterday on the million words of crap concept, and this seems to be how most people think you get better at writing. You write another story, you write another story, you write another story, and magically you'll get better at some point down the line. A quick further debunk of that, but go and see the video I released yesterday. I don't know how old you are for anyone watching this, but I'm assuming you've passed your driving test. If you haven't, ask this question of someone you know who has, and ask them how many hours roughly of driving they've done since they passed their driving test, and are they any better? And if they're honest with themselves, the answer you should get back is actually they're no better now than they were 30 years ago when they took their driving test, or 20 years ago, or 10 years ago. Just doing the thing over and over won't make you better. So just writing fictional stories over and over and turning out one after another won't make you a better fiction writer in and of itself. So the reason why knowing how to use deliberate practice is so important is because it can actually shave hundreds, if not thousands, of hours off your writing journey. If you're trying to get better at writing by writing more and more stories, you'd be much better off having a more tactical and strategic approach and learning sub-skills of writing using deliberate practice. Your writing will just improve much quicker. I think most writers, wherever you are now, and the beautiful thing about deliberate practice is, even if you're already a quality writer and you're published, let's say, if you spend some practice time over the next year, you'll be amazed at how much you can improve. That's doubly true for people who are at much lower levels of a skill at the moment. So beginners, people who've been writing for a bit, much easier to improve your skills by using deliberate practice. Now, writing is a game of 2 parts. There's form, which is your line-by-line writing. So it's the words you use, the grammar you use, all those kind of things. And then there's content, which is your story ideas, which are informed by your life experience. The good news, you can practice both. Let's talk about applying deliberate practice to form, which is your line-by-line, paragraph-by-paragraph, the actual writing and the nuts and bolts of writing. So wherever you are as a writer, you can already write to a certain degree. You already know how to put sentences together. You already know how to put paragraphs together. You probably have a basic, maybe intuitive understanding of the rules of grammar. So you've already got that in your toolbox. But 6 months of deliberate practice will turbocharge your form writing. Plus, it will give you the practice tools to continue improving beyond that. And what I mean by these 2 bullet points is most people have got. Let me step back slightly. The educational system, certainly in the UK, probably in the US, doesn't support good writing. Some of the writing that's done at degree level in disciplines that aren't writing, I've been given some by both of my sons, who are, one's finished university, one's at university, and it's full of just errors in terms of how the writing is done, kind of structures that are used. It's almost designed to make reading the writing that's been done incomprehensible. And for writing fiction, you can't afford to write like that. And so for most people, what you can do in 6 months is you can initially identify the weaknesses, the areas that you need to improve on, and then break them down into sub-skills and practice those sub-skills using deliberate practice, and you'll be amazed at how quickly you can internalize those sub-skills. Most sub-skills you can assimilate in 10 to 15 hours, perhaps less, depending on where you already are and what you already know. So yes, that's what I've just said. Key point, most sub-skills can be assimilated with 10 to 15 hours of structured, deliberate practice. So in 6 months, you could do, if you did an hour of practice a day, which probably most people won't be able to fit in as well as doing writing and reading and all those other things. But if you did an hour a day, you could do 2 sub-skills a month. 6 months, you'd have assimilated 12 sub-skills. Your writing will look and feel and read totally different from how it does now. You can also apply deliberate practice to content. Now, you've already got a bank of ideas to draw from, whether you know it or not. You've read tons of stories, seen thousands of hours of visual storytelling, plus you've got your life experiences, so births, deaths, marriages, falling in and out of love, all those things. And those 2 strands merge to inform your unique personality. But as a writer, what you can use deliberate practice for is to go to the storytelling aspect and dig deeper into storytelling. And there's ways of using deliberate practice to make your storytelling better as well. So you can use deliberate practice to develop that at the same time as you're developing the form. The great thing is with the form part of the writing equation, when you've assimilated something, and by assimilated, I mean practiced it to the point of unconscious competence, you are pretty much there with that, and you don't really need to practice it again. So once you've got those steps in place, you can then spend your practice time on other things. And something like storytelling is something that you could practice and spend practice hours on for the rest of your life, whatever age you are now, because there's always new things to find, new things to learn. But the series of articles that I'm doing, the repetition paradox, won't be just theory. I've started developing AI-based tools that you can use as your deliberate practice partner for specific tasks. And not only do these tools guide your practice according to the principles of deliberate practice, but they can also give you feedback. I've started doing it with myself. The results are staggering. They're either going to be simple interactive apps that will be on a specific page, or they will be documents that you load into an AI and then open a conversation with the AI and say, based on document 1, 2, and 3, I want to do this. Can you guide me as my deliberate practice partner? You'll be utterly amazed. So simple, and it frees up, because one of the hardest parts of learning anything is getting immediate feedback. So if you're making a mistake, you need to correct it immediately. And so learning from books can work, but you need to somehow have a feedback mechanism built in. And in all these tools that I'm making, the feedback's there immediate in the apps, or the for the ones that aren't apps, but are the documents that you then chat with, and the AI comes back and says, right, here's your first task. And if you get it wrong, it will be instructed to give you feedback. So the feedback is the part of the learning structure that most people normally miss. They carry on blithely learning and being ignorant of when they're actually making mistakes. And what you want to do is, when you make a mistake, you want to be pulled up. Hey, you've made a mistake. Get a line or two saying this is why you've made a mistake, and immediately get back on the horse and fix it. So these tools will be that, as I say, they're very simple. They're revolutionary. Some of the things that we'll be covering in the repetition paradox: understanding what the repetition paradox itself actually is, and using the 3-zone model of learning to understand how to avoid the repetition paradox. That will all be explained, but this is so when I touched upon with driving, if you've done thousands of hours of driving since you passed your test but not got any better, that's the repetition paradox in a nutshell. The best example of it that I can think that affects nearly everyone who will be watching this video. We're also going to look at the 3 different types of practice there is. There's 2 that you should be doing and 1 that you should avoid. Unfortunately, most fiction writers do the one you should avoid. So you need to know the different types of practice and know how to differentiate them, so you can make sure you're doing practice and investing time in doing practice that actually has a beneficial return for you. We'll also be covering how deliberate practice combines with deliberate play. This is essential for fiction writers to understand. You won't find much about deliberate play in much of the deliberate practice literature that's out there. It's something that I knew was missing from my mental representation of deliberate practice, and I finally found this missing piece about 6 months ago, and suddenly 4 or 5 things all clicked in and slotted together and gave me a much better picture of how this works, how you use it as a teaching aid and a learning aid. So we'll be covering that, and how the 2 different, they're similar but different disciplines, how they play together or work together to give you a better path forwards in terms of learning. We'll look at the 11 different principles of deliberate practice and which one you're unlikely to need for fiction writing and why. As I've said, there are going to be multiple tools built with AI to develop specific writing sub-skills. More things we're covering: how to identify where you are as a writer so you know what to target in your practice, the neuroscience behind why 5 30-minute practice sessions a week exponentially trump a 2.5-hour binge session on the weekend, and there's loads more. So there's going to be lots of stuff, but it's not theory based, and very early on in the process, the first practice app will become live, and people will be able to use it. Now, let me just see if I can go back a slide. Yeah, so I've gone back a slide. So I just want to introduce this slide we're about to go to. So I've been using deliberate practice, teaching a musical instrument since 2009. If you go on Amazon and look for Paul Wolfe Deliberate Practice for Bass, BASS, you'll find my Deliberate Practice bass book. The screenshot rather that I'm about to read to you is one of the reviews on that book. So you can go there and have a look, read some of the reviews. As with all books, there's a couple of 1-star, 2-star reviews, one of which has really pissed me off, because you used to be able to reply to reviews on Amazon, but they took that away at some stage, and someone left a 1-star review that shows they just skimmed through the book and really missed the essence of the book. So, but you can read the 4- and 5-star reviews, and they'll give you an idea of what I actually know about deliberate practice. But this screenshot is part of a review that's on there from a lady who's some kind of psychologist. She's got 2 psychology degrees. So I'm going to flick to that and read that, and it will give you faith or belief that I actually know what I'm talking about. So she says, I have 2 psychology degrees and worked as a director for a multidisciplinary research centre at a Tier 1 university before I shifted into clinical work, largely because 12 to 16-hour workdays were harming my health, constraining other areas of desired growth. I mention this only because I want you to know that I am keenly aware of the psychological principles you're utilising, and I appreciate and want to validate your adaptation of these principles specifically for learning base. And they don't just apply for learning base, they apply for everything. You've just got to be able to see how each of the principles apply for different disciplines. Back to Jennifer. I've spent decades using these concepts and related research in service of my own professional and personal development, and more recently as part of providing mental skills, training/performance optimization, coaching for athletes, musicians, artists, academics, and business professionals. Excuse me. Your work is orders of magnitude more useful than any other base-specific resources I've come across. Many thanks for your role in systemizing and formalizing base education. I look forward to working through all of your books as time goes on. Blah, 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 blah. We don't need to read much that other than she wants to give this one, the deliberate practice one, to her instructor. He has no idea what he's missing, and I want to connect the dots for him so that everything I do is informed by your work. And then the final paragraph, I missed out on a lot of my life by working incessantly all this time, so it is very much in my interest to follow an efficient and productive pathway to cultivating the musicality that will make the rest of my life so much more engaging and fulfilling. You are the catalyst. Thank you. Now, you don't get reviews like that if you're talking out of your arse or blowing smoke out of your arse. And what she says there, she wants to cultivate musicality to make the rest of her life more engaging and fulfilling. Exactly the same thing is true of writing fiction. And hopefully I can be a catalyst to help you, just like I've helped Jennifer with her bass playing. So closing out, this is the important bit to check out. This material will start out as video articles just like this and like the ones you've seen on the Writing Vault YouTube channel, but they won't be on the Writing Vault YouTube channel. I may put a few excerpts on, but all of this work is going to go in the Writing Vault itself. It should take 2 to 3 months to finish, and when it's finished, I'll take it out of the Writing Vault and bundle it together to make a standalone course. I don't know what that course will be charged out at. Maybe it'll be $100, maybe it'll be more. The people who are in the Writing Vault from now till I've finished will automatically be grandfathered into the standalone version. If you want to check out the Writing Vault, the URL's there. Also, I'll put a link in the description to this video. If you've got any questions, you can email me, paul@deliberate-practice.com. I think that for those people who really want to become better at writing, write better stories, communicate those stories better, the things that we're going to go through in this program will make a massive difference. At the moment, the Writing Vault is $1 for 10 days. So basically I'm giving you 10 days on me so you can check everything out. And the first proper deliberate practice video article will go in tomorrow, which will be Tuesday the 19th of August. And so those 10 days are on me, but you have to basically validate that you're not a bot by putting $1 down. So that's why. And then after that, it's just $7 for a month. So this might be one of the best writing investments, in my opinion, that you make this year. Obviously, you've got to make your own judgment call on that. You can drop me an email, paul@deliberate-practice.com, and ask any questions you want, and I will answer them as honestly and as fully as I can. But this is something I've wanted to do in various forms for 10 years, and now is the time to finally put it down on the page or in the video articles, and get it down there and out there, and finish off some of these AI apps that I've built, and put them in there so people can start using them and start developing their skills. So that's what the repetition paradox is all about. Hopefully that's of interest to you. Thank you for your time watching this, and as I say, if you have any questions, just drop me an email.